started as an ordinary day, or so I thought. Little did I know that stepping over that black cat would change everything. I've never been one for superstition. Black cats, broken mirrors, walking under ladders. It all seemed like silly nonsense to me. But after the events of that fateful day, I'm not so sure anymore. Something shifted, like the world tilted ever so slightly on its axis. And that mangy black cat was at the center of it all. The morning began like any other, with the blaring of my alarm pulling me from a deep slumber. I groggily climbed out of bed, not realizing at first how eerily silent the house was. Took a moment for it to dawn on me, none of my backup alarms had gone off. All 6 of them, battery-operated for this very reason, sat lifeless. A chill ran down my spine. Just a fluke, I told myself, shaking off the unease. I stumbled to the bathroom, still half asleep. That's when the strangeness truly began. I couldn't find anything in its proper place, not my toothbrush, razor, or face wash. It was as if a poltergeist had rearranged my meticulously organized bathroom purely to spite me. Frustrated, I fumbled around until I finally got myself ready. Things only got worse from there. As I moved through my small apartment, I continuously bumped into furniture that seemed to have shifted ever so slightly out of position. By the time I made it out the front door, a sense of dread had settled deep in my gut. Something was off about this day, but I couldn't put my finger on what. The streets were unnaturally still and quiet as I began my walk to work. The usual morning bustle of the city seemed muted, like the volume had been turned down low. Each step I took echoed too loudly on the pavement. I hunched my shoulders and quickened my pace, unnerved by the unsettling atmosphere. That's when I saw it, the black cat. It emerged from a narrow alley and planted itself directly in my path. I pulled up short, surprised. Strays were a common sight in this part of town, but something about this scrawny cat gave me pause. As I hesitantly approached, I noticed a raw pink scar cutting across one of its eyes. The cat gazed up at me unflinchingly with its one good eye. A shiver ran through me and I hurried past, careful not to let it brush against my leg. I hadn't gone more than a block when I saw it again. The same black cat, its ruined eye unmistakable, sitting in the middle of the sidewalk ahead as if it had been waiting for me. That same uncanny stare boring into me. Impossible, I thought. Couldn't have gotten ahead of me that quickly. Unsettled, I crossed to the other side of the street and walked on, glancing back over my shoulder. The cat was gone. My relief was short-lived. The cat appeared twice more on my route, each time in front of me, though I knew it couldn't have passed me. Each time it fixed me with that penetrating, accusing glare, as if I had wronged it greatly. By the time I reached my office building, my nerves were thoroughly rattled. I hurried inside, putting the disturbing cat out of my mind as I immersed myself in work. The day passed in a blur of computer glitches, system crashes, and flickering lights. My coworkers grumbled about Mercury being in retrograde. I didn't believe in any of that astrology nonsense, but even I had to admit this string of bad luck was uncanny. It was a relief to finally clock out at the end of the day. I just wanted to get home, crack open a beer, and forget this whole bizarre day had ever happened. I pushed through the revolving doors and out onto the street, and froze. There, sitting in the middle of the sidewalk, was the black cat, waiting for me. A whimper escaped my throat. This was impossible. It had to be a different cat, I told myself. They just looked similar. Plenty of black cats have scars. But as I drew closer, there was no denying it was the same feline that had stalked me all the way to work. That unnatural pink slash over its eye was unmistakable. My pace quickened until I was nearly running, dashing around corners and cutting through alleys to throw the cat off my trail. But each time I glanced back, there it was, trotting at my heels or peering at me from a stoop with that eerie knowing gaze. The harder I tried to lose it, the more it seemed to appear out of thin air. I was panting and wild-eyed by the time I reached my apartment building, certain the cat would be waiting on the stoop or lurking in the lobby. I didn't see it, but I knew better than to think I had shaken my uncanny stalker. The climb up the 4 flights to my door was agony. My whole body tensed for the cat to leap out at any moment. But I made it inside without incident. I slammed the door and slumped against it, gasping for breath. My heart thundered painfully against my ribs. I squeezed my eyes closed, trying to calm myself. It was just a cat. Maybe weird, but ultimately harmless. I was getting myself worked up over nothing. When I opened my eyes, I screamed. There, sitting on my kitchen table, was the black cat. I blinked hard, certain it was a hallucination. But the cat remained, swishing its matted tail, watching me with that cold, unwavering stare, its recti oozing. How did you get in here? I rasped. The cat, of course, did not reply, but as I looked around, with trembling hands, I edged towards the black cat on the table. "Okay, kitty," I said in what I hoped was a soothing tone. "Time for you to go." I reached for the cat. Quick as a flash, it twisted its head and sank its teeth into the meat of my palm. I yelped and reeled back, clutching my injured hand to my chest. Blood welled up, startlingly bright against my skin. The cat had vanished. Breathing hard, I stumbled into the bathroom, running my hand under cold water. The bite wasn't deep, but it throbbed painfully. I watched the water circling down the drain turn pink, feeling lightheaded. Whether from blood loss or delayed shock, I didn't know. When I glanced up, I saw something that turned my blood to ice water in my veins. There, reflected in the mirror, looming over I whipped around with a shout, but there was nothing behind me. I looked back at the mirror, only my own ash. Over the next weeks, my life unraveled in a string of increasingly uncanny and disturbing events. Everywhere I went, the black cat followed, always watching from afar. I stopped going out, making excuses to work from home. But even cloistered in my apartment, I couldn't escape it. Each night as I tried to sleep, I swore I could hear. My health declined. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Even awake, I started to hallucinate, seeing the cat's distorted form flitting at the edges of my vision, hearing its guttural yowling in the white noise of a running faucet or a humming appliance. I tried everything to rid myself of my feline tormentor. I left food out, hoping to appease it. I bought all manner of charms and wards off the internet. I even consulted a priest, a witch, and a shaman. Nothing worked. The cat remained, my constant shadow, an ill omen brewing misfortune in my wake. And misfortune did seem to follow me like a noxious cloud. My computer bricked, wiping out weeks of unsaved work. A pipe burst in my wall, flooding my apartment and soaking everything I owned. I lost my job, my savings dwindled, my friends stopped calling. Through it all, the black cat watched from the periphery, a silent specter of doom. I was at the end of my rope, barely clinging to the last ragged threads of my sanity, when I found the passage. It was buried in an ancient, crumbling tome that smelled of grave dirt and incense smoke, the pages so delicate they threatened to dissolve under my fingertips. I didn't even remember ordering the book, but it had appeared on my doorstep one day, wrapped in oilskin. The passage spoke of a curse, a malediction so profane it could only be uttered by the lips of the dead. It told of how a soul so steeped in evil, one not even hell would claim it after death, could cling to the mortal plane by infesting a wayward beast, a common pest like a rat. My hands shook as I read. I knew what I had to do. That night, I sat awake in the dark, a kitchen knife clutched in one white-knuckled hand. My eyes locked on the thin strip of moonlight spilling under the closet door. I had seen the cat slink in there hours ago. For the first time, I had been glad. Now I had it cornered. Minutes slid by, or maybe hours. Time stretched like taffy. My arm ached from gripping the knife. At some point it had started to rain, the drops pattering against the window, but the sound seemed very distant, as if coming from another world. All that existed was the silver blade of the knife, and then it moved. A shadow cut through the shaft of moonlight. I waited until I saw the glint of its eyes in the dark before I lunged. The cat let out an unearthly shriek as I tackled it, pinning it under my weight. It writhed and twisted, yowling as its claws raked burning stripes down my forearms. But I held fast, teeth bared in a mad grimace. The cat threw its head back and met my gaze. In that suspended moment, I swore I saw something horribly human in its eyes, a hateful, all-too-knowing gleam. Then I brought the knife down and that abominable light winked out. It was over so quickly. One moment the thing was thrashing beneath me. The next it was limp, its mangy fur matted with sticky blood. I stumbled to my feet, letting the knife drop from my numb fingers. I stared down at what I had done, my breath sawing. I expected to feel relief, expected the oppressive atmosphere that had hung over me these past weeks to lift. But if anything, the air felt heavier, more suffocating. The shadows seemed to press in closer, filled with awful unspoken whispers. With shaking hands, I bundled the cat's corpse into a plastic garbage bag. His body was so light, practically weightless, like it had never been truly real at all. I tied off the bag and dragged it out of my apartment, leaving a dark smear on the carpet. I hauled it down 4 flights and shoved it in. I trudged back to my apartment in a daze, numb to the oily rain soaking through my clothes, the asphalt glistening like obsidian under the sickly yellow glow of the streetlights. I felt hollowed out, empty, like some vital part of me had been clawed out and dragged down into the dark with that wretched feline. When I finally stepped back inside, it was almost dawn, as if the black cat, but I knew better. In the weeks that followed, my bad luck only intensified, grew more twisted and insidious. It was as if the cat's death had blown open a hole in the universe, a festering wound through which all manner of misfortune poured, thick and vile as spoiled milk. My health took a sharp downturn, a series of mystery illnesses sapping what little reserves I had left. I lost my apartment, unable to make rent. I bounced from couch to couch, wearing out my welcome as calamity dogged me from home to home. My friendships crumbled. I lived on the streets, scrounging and scavenging, slowly losing myself bit by bit. The memories of my old life felt distant, foreign, as if they belonged to a completely different person. The only thing that felt real anymore was the lingering specter of the black cat. I saw it everywhere, gaunt and ghostly, watching me from alleyways and dark corners, its slashed eye glowing with vindictive glee. It was always just out of reach, dissolving into the shadows when I tried to approach. A constant reminder of what I had done, what I had unleashed upon the world. Deep down, I knew the truth. I hadn't broke, it had taken up residence inside me. Now, as I wander these dirty city streets, a husk of the man I used to be, I can feel it there, curled behind my heart like a smoldering coal. It poisons my thoughts, blackens my soul with its ancient evil. I see its mark in the ruin that follows. I've become the next cursed vessel, as twisted and wretched as the black cat ever was. A living bad luck charm, a harbinger of sorrow and despair. And somewhere out there, I know that damned cat is laughing, gloating over its final victory. Because now I finally understand the terrible truth, the punchline to this cosmos, and by trying to destroy it,